Welcome back to MMA Oddsbreaker. I'm Frank Trigg. That, of course, is Ryan Jimmo getting ready to face Ovince St. Preux or OSP coming up in UFC 174 in Vancouver. Ryan, actually, I will be there working with Joe Ferraro. I'll be backstage, front stage, side stage, pretty much bothering you the entire time that you're there. Good news is that Rogers will not allow me to show up till Friday, so you won't see me at the weigh-ins. You won't have to deal with me on Tuesday when you get in town.
Okay.
What do you do? Every other fighter flies in on Tuesday. That's where it is in the world. UFC has everybody flying on Tuesday. What do you do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Friday you make weight, Saturday you fight. What's your days like the 3 days before? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. What's that like?
You do a little bit of training when you come in. Usually about once a day. You don't want to go too hard, so 30 minutes, 45-minute workouts during the day. Try to make sure you're well rested. Get a good sleep. Put some an appropriate amount of food into you, and maybe nap in the afternoon. And then you just gotta keep occupied. If you can, be it on the internet or a little bit of sightseeing or just kind of hang out with your teammates or your corners that are there. Just anything just to kind of pass the time. Those days are, and sometimes you're depending on where you are on the card, you have to do some media stuff. But so you try to stay pretty occupied.
When you say appropriate amount of food, obviously it's because you have to make weight. You have to watch what your diet is. It's the last week. It's not time to relax yet. What do you eat, especially because you're not at home? There's no one to cook for you. You have to go out to eat the entire time, try to figure things out. What do you eat that week before a fight and when you're out in the hotel room?
So usually, you bring some protein. I bring some protein powder and a couple of protein bars. Those are elements that I can control. And you take your normal supplements. But when you go to a restaurant, you ask for, you're trying to get sodium out of your diet. So you ask them for, some steak with no spices on it, or chicken breast with nothing on it, just plain stuff with some salads. And it's depending on, how much weight you're cutting and how good you are and how good your body is at, shedding that weight. So it's usually a clean source of protein, no extra spices, and usually a pretty clean salad.
How is your weight right now?
I'm waking up 222, 223, but I'm eating a lot of salt. I'm still keeping some things in my diet. This week I'm going to pull out, a couple of the higher fat foods and maybe more caloric things, but keep the salt in there. So I suspect by the end of this week coming up, I'll be waking up at under 220.
When you show up on that Tuesday, do you have when I used to fly, I would gain weight when I would fly because of whatever was in the food, and especially depending on how long it was, if it's across the country or overseas, I'd gain a lot of weight because we're stuck on a plane for so long. When you land, what are you going to weigh? You weigh about 222, or are you going to weigh a little bit more?
I'll probably just under 220, between 219, 221, in that range. And again, that's from, you're right, when you fly, you tend to hold more water and, that sort of thing. You're not in as much control of your food. So usually about that. And then, as you remember, that 3 or 4 pounds go away almost overnight just because of the flying, right? So, yeah.
Do you land and work out? I used to go, get in the hotel room, check in, talk to everybody, and then, 45 minutes after I'm free, we're going outside to get a workout in. It was purely just to get my body on the time zone, my body acclimated to, increase in height or decrease in height, depending on where we were going. Do you work out on Tuesday when you land?
Try to. Yeah, I try to. And sometimes it's depending on when everyone else is arriving and it depends on how fatigued you are. But that's usually the plan. That's almost always the plan. If everything works out or you don't get in too late, then you're right, just get that little bit of jet lag off your body. That's usually the plan.
Okay, let's talk about OVP, Ovince St. Preux. He's your next opponent. You're 19-3, he's 15-5, so record-wise, you guys are very close. But you have two very distinctive kind of styles of how you approach the fight. What do you think he has to change if he wants to have any chance of battling against you when you guys compete?
I think he has to be in extremely good shape cardio-wise. He has to be in his best shape he's ever been for a fight, I think. Also, I think he has to sharpen up a lot on the stand-up game. If he wants, if this is a stand-up affair, I'm just simply technically better than him there, and I have more punching power, He's got a little bit of reach on me, but I mean, with my karate style, that reach is kind of taken away from him anyway. So he really I think our wrestling is going to be a wash. I think I'm as good as him, and we can both take each other down, and we can both defend each other's takedown. I think that's going to be almost a wash. So I think it's going to be a stand-up affair, and I hope he better hope that he's cleaned up his technique, because I'm looking to take some chiclets out.
Before I get to that comment, let's talk about the banana peel effect. There's a banana peel in the ring. He takes you down. You take him down. Now you've landed. You've established a takedown, or he's established a takedown, and you're on top. If you had to make a decision to be on top or on bottom with OVP, would you choose to be underneath or on top of him in the middle of the
No, certainly on top, And if if it turns into a wrestling where I do slip on that banana peel and he's starting to get a top position, then I am going to scramble. I am going to scramble like a thief running out of a bank during a robbery, to make sure I get up from underneath that, so I can make sure that I keep my advantage there. And on top, I know he's had a couple of or when he's on bottom or he's on top, he's had a couple of different kind of submissions and stuff. So just stay very secure and keep good positions when I'm in those situations.
Have you been training more in your ground game, because you know that is your weak spot, but it's also his weak spot, to try to get yourself elevated in case you get in that space, whether it's top or bottom?
I'm wrestling with the wrestlers every day, and you know what? When I used to train up in Edmonton, Alberta, I wrestled with the university team up there, and my wrestling was pretty good. As you remember my fights in the NFC, no one really took me down. And if it did, it was like for an instant, and I was back up on my feet, because my wrestling, my scrambling was so good. So I lost that a little bit when I went to Florida. We didn't do as much wrestling and stuff, but my wrestling came back in a big way in these last 3 to 4 months. As you remember, my last fight, I hit a double leg. And he had no chance to take me down. So I mean, and I'm starting to get better. There are days like, for instance, Brian Bader and I, and this shows how much of a hard worker he is. He'll beat me in stand up, and then I'll beat him wrestling. You know what I mean?
Oh.
So yeah,
really?
and that happens. He'll beat me in stand up. Oh man, Ryan kind of tag, really got me good there. And then some days I'll beat him in the wrestling. If he's having a bit of a bad day, I'm good. And vice versa when we're doing stand up and with all the wrestlers there, sometimes I'm beating wrestlers and sometimes they're beating me in stand up. So it's awesome trade off.
Now, you're talking about Bader. Now, who else do you train with besides Bader? I mean, obviously, CB Dalloway and Aaron Simpson and all these guys in the room. But who do you train with on a regular basis? Because there's a lot of guys in the room, but who are the guys that come in every day and give you torture?
That'd be Ryan Bader, CB Dalloway, Aaron Brown, and there's a couple other guys too. But those are we have a really good jiu-jitsu guy named Kiko. I believe he's fighting in the World Series right now. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not. We get to grapple with him, and he's pretty awesome. But those are the main bigger guys. Joe Giolotti, he's guys fighting in some of the local shows, but he's a really good wrestler. He's about 200 pounds, thick and stocky, and he's pretty tough. I get to go kickbox some pretty prominent kickboxers down here that are training at Power MMA. So I mean, I've got the world at my fingertips down here, really.
Do you have to go anywhere else to train besides Power MMA? Or is everything, strength conditioning, nutrition, everything is done inside the building?
So I do my own nutrition for the most part. I also have my own strength trainer, a guy named Tim McClellan. He worked with a lot of guys, Kenny Monday, Mike Van Arsdale. He was his strength trainer back in the day. He's trained over 800 national, world, and Olympic champions in over 25 sports. Guy's awesome. And he's also my karate instructor as well. So I do karate outside of Power twice a week, just because it's kind of a specialized skill that's kind of an oddity in the MMA world. And I do strength and conditioning with him. But Power MMA, they do have their own guy. I established a relationship with Tim McClellan, so he's my guy, and I think he's absolutely awesome.
Talking about karate, obviously Lyoto Machida is the forefront right now in MMA as far as karate goes, and the guys are kind of proven that karate still is functionable within MMA, because everyone else is the other striking arts besides boxing and Muay Thai. They were all considered to be obsolete. And all of a sudden now Lyoto comes back in and karate's a big deal. You come back in and karate's a big deal. It's been really fun to watch you especially when you fight in MFC. And I was commenting on your fights how I'd want somebody to take you down just to stop it and they couldn't take you down. They couldn't get inside your long range. They couldn't because karate has this very long range that they deal with. It's very long. If you have a 70-inch reach in boxing, sometimes that guy only uses 67 inches of it. You're using all 70 inches or whatever your reach is, leg, feet, everything.
I find it usually when I'm sparring with a guy who's like my same range, like same arm length and same body dimensions, I find the karate is 6 to 8 inches outside their range at all times, and that's just frustrating for most stand-up guys.
Do you find it sometimes hard when most places have a big boxing instructor and they come in and they're like, do this, do this. You're like, well, no, my style has me do these other things. You want to be respectful to the group coach, but you still need to be respectful to your background and how you came up and what keeps you winning all these fights. Do you find it hard sometimes to kind of keep that dynamic correct?
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a balancing act there. Sometimes, you just kind of do it the best you can, and, try to build that skill that he's trying to teach. And then, you talk to him on the side. It's never a good idea to kind of challenge his authority in front of people. But, and then sometimes they don't realize you have a different background. So I figure I always try to do it the best I can that they show me. And then if I have to, explain myself in a more forceful way. But for the most part, I just try to build that skill that they're trying to teach. And then if it's not good for me, then I can simply throw it out and not use it. It's better to try to build the skill. And if it works for me, it's better to have the skill and not need it than not have it and need it. So there is a little bit of that. It's boxing has different stances and different angles and different distance. So yeah.
Now with OVP, he's more of a boxing style kind of guy. Is it easier to battle a guy, in your opinion, a guy that's more of a boxing style, or is it easier for you to battle a guy that's a karate style?
Well, I'm pretty good at seeing both because I see both. I really get back in my karate roots. I've been doing karate twice a week, as well as boxing. But to kind of rearrange that question, if you don't mind, I see boxers all the time. He doesn't see karate guys all the time. Okay. So I can kind of read both pretty easily, but I do find boxing guys easier to deal with because there's not as much footwork. They're not as used to dealing with my distance, but I'm used to dealing with theirs. So it's much easier for me to deal with their kind of perspective and their distance and the way that they do their methodology of fighting as opposed to them dealing with mine.
So if you had to predict this fight and not keeping your ego out of it and keeping your, hey, I'm in the fight. If you had to break it down from a coaching standpoint, because you're very smart, you understand the game as a whole and how it works out and how things pan out. When and where do you see this fight ending? Do you think it's going to be more of a long, drawn-out battle, or you guys are battling each other all the way through to the end of the final round, or do you think it'll be a finish sometime in the middle of this fight?
I think it's going to be finished probably midway through the second, if it's anything. I mean, he's an athletic guy. He's pretty explosive at times. He's pretty strong. But his technique is not quite there yet. So as he progresses and gets more tired, he's going to be easier and easier to read, and he's going to be sloppier and sloppier in that aspect of the game that's a little bit off. So, and try to do stuff like become more physical and overcome his lack of technique with more physicality, which will exhaust him even further, which will make technique even sloppier. So I'm looking at when that fatigue starts to set into his body, when I'm pushing that high pace on him, and he starts fatiguing and starts getting sloppier, and that's what my technique is going to overcome his physicality. I mean, I think on athletic front, I think we're about even. And I think on a wrestling front, I think we're about even. But that stand-up front, I mean, he's hard to read because he's awkward and he doesn't have super great technique. But that's going to come back and bite him.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's Ryan Jimmo who's getting ready to face Ovince St. Preux, or OSP, coming up on UFC 174 in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'll actually be there as well, so I get to make fun of Ryan the entire time there. And then, of course, it's his country. I get made more fun of. So, Ryan, I appreciate
how that works, Frank?
Yeah, that pretty much is how it works. It's we cross the border, all of a sudden we think we got control, but we really don't. It's a whole game we played. Ryan, I appreciate you coming on here. I know you're busy. I know you have a lot of things going on. And I appreciate you coming on here with us a little bit on MMA Oddsbreaker. Last question. A couple nights ago, last night, was TJ Dillashaw versus Renan Barao. Renan Barao faces this huge, unstoppable force. The betting lines came out, 8-1 in favor of Barao, 6-1 minus for Dillashaw. Dillashaw wins from beginning to end. Completely controls the entire fight. Do you, in your personal professional opinion, and a fan of the sport, remember another time when such a huge betting underdog completely dominated a complete huge favorite in such a fashion?
I don't know. And you're not talking about like the underdog landed a lucky punch and TKO'd him by accident. You're talking about a complete I beat Wilson Gouveia one time. I was actually an underdog like that, and I laid a beating on that guy that he still probably remembers. So
from beginning to end, from the opening bell to the final ref stepping in and waving it off.
Yep.
That is legitimately how both those fights went. And I did, and it's tough sometimes as a fighter to remember every single fight and every single I was ranked this or I was rated this or the betting line was this. But that is exactly what happened to Gouveia, and it's the exact same thing that happened to Barao last night. Mm-hmm. They were the favorites, huge favorites. They put a straight ass kicking on.
Yep.
Dillashaw completely surprised and proved hard work, dedication, and having full confidence is the way to really compete in mixed martial arts. And that's something you've had since the first time I met you in MFC. Is that you just dedicate, you will not stop training, you always get better. You've moved. You left Canada, went to Florida. You don't leave Canada to go to Florida. Nobody does that. It's like super, super cold, like the desert. It makes no sense. Okay, swamp, I get it. But then you're like, it doesn't work for me, so now I'm moving over to Arizona. Like you really embody the guy that's like, I have to move, I have to shift, I have to leave my family, I have to leave my comfort zone and become better. And as a result, you are. And that's one of the things that Dillashaw did, but it's also one of the things that you do all the time as well.
Frank, our relationship has grown a lot.
Just because I don't like you doesn't mean I can't be honest about you. Come on, let's call. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. It's just what it is. I mean, we don't have to like each other. You still had it better than that guy. It's just what happened. Okay. But it's the reality of it is that you do work hard.
Bring that up, eh? You still don't believe me as
I'm right. I'm right. It's just what it is. I'm right. You remember the difference is that you get to actually do the fight. I get to talk about the fight, so I get to spend more time talking about the fight, so I win more often.
Yeah, that's
how it goes.
Yeah. You're pretty good at arguing, Frank.
I have my moments, and plus two, it's my show, so I can hit and record anytime I want to, and no one hears what you say after. Ryan, thanks for coming on here. Good luck, and we'll talk to you soon. I'll see you up there in Vancouver, bud.
See you then.